Welcome to TEPSA Talk, the podcast where leaders inspire, share, and grow together. TEPSA is dedicated to celebrating the incredible work happening in education. Each episode, we dive into meaningful conversations with leaders, change-makers, and innovators who are shaping the future of our schools. Whether you're looking for fresh ideas, encouragement, or a little spark to fuel your passion, TEPSA Talk is here for you. Imagine tuning in to hear how leaders are revolutionizing their schools, tackling challenges head-on, and fostering a culture of collaboration. Grab a coffee, hit play, and let's grow together. Welcome to TEPSA Talk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TEPSA Talk podcast. I'm your host, Todd Neslony, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership here at the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association. We are thrilled each week to bring you different thought leaders from around the world, and today we have somebody who is a longtime friend of TEPSA, and that is Dr. Frank Buck. Dr. Buck, thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Wow. It's great to kind of form that relationship again with TEPSA. 2017, you had me for your summer conference for a 3-hour masterclass. Year before that, presented for the Texas Music Educators Association conference. So looking forward to sort of getting back in with some of the Texas folks. Born and raised in Alabama, started out as a band director. You probably know my good friend, Earl Franks. We were band directors in Alabama at the same time before we both went into school administration. And then after I got into administration, the thing that kind of brings me really here today to do something like this is when I got to the stage where I did the doctoral dissertation, had to pick something to write, I decided to do time management. And the big aha that came out of all of that was, gosh, there's so much written for time management in the business world, not so much for school people. So that's where my focus really aimed. And then, workshops, several books out there. And that brings me here today to hopefully give people some takeaways on how they can make this journey a little bit easier.
I love it. Well, Dr. Buck, I always love when we start these conversations to also hear a little bit about some of the choices you made in your journey. And, you talked about being a band director, being in administration, doing all these things like speaking, writing books, all of that. Before we dive into this whole idea of time management organization, I'd love to know for you, at each step of your career, when things shifted a little bit for you to try something new, how did you know that that was the right moment for you to be stepping into? Was that just a naturally led thing, or was there somebody along the way who was kind of like, Frank, I think you need to think about this next?
Wow. Good. That's the first time I've gotten that question, but it has been people along the way that said, I think you would be really good at this. And especially when I was making that decision, I was a successful middle school band director. Do I continue to do that, or do I go another way? And other people who had made that same step. See, I used to think, and I would see people who were successful as band directors or choir directors, and they go into administration. I think, why would anybody who does what they do as well as they do it do something else? And then I realized that just because someone does something well, that doesn't mean that's the only thing that they do well or the only thing that they want to do.
Yep.
So I think there's a time when we just need to grow to the next step. And usually it's people around us that are kind of saying, I think you could do this. I think you would be good at this.
I love that you share that, though, because sometimes I think, especially as educators, we can get pigeonholed into a particular grade level or content area or things like that because we're great at it. But that doesn't mean that is your only passion. And it also doesn't mean that your passions can't change along the way as you do these things. So I love that you shared that perspective. Okay, let's switch gears now. I want to dive into this because I want to make sure we have time to talk about this because I'm so excited about today's topic because you are somebody who has specialized in this whole idea of time management. So before we jump into that though, have you always been good at time management? Like, I'm dying to know. Was this something you're like, Todd, this has just been something I've naturally been good at, and people just wanted to hear more about how, or were you more of the, I sucked at this and had to figure out a solution, and this is what I figured out?
Now, that's actually a question I get all the time. Were you always the organized guy? And the answer to that is yes, that I was. And I think that was a lot of the success that I had, especially early on. Todd, you would not, you couldn't believe how many little bitty details go into something as simple as putting on a junior high band concert. But
I believe
once
it.
you've got it, if you had been careful about making that list, then you've got it when you do it again and again and again. So one of the things I learned early on as a young teacher was this is a very cyclic business. There are things that we do every month. There are especially things that we do every year. There are things that we do to start school. There are things that we do to end school. There are those major projects that happen during the year, and every one of them carries its own little to-do list. If you capture that, boy, the next time that project comes around, it's just, you've got the list.
Yeah.
And then when I became an assistant principal, it was the same thing. As you're going through it the first time, you're leaving tracks for yourself for the next year. And I've done that in every position. And Todd, I'm the guy you want to follow because the list, it's already there. You can
Yeah.
do it differently if you want to, but what I did and how I did it, it's there for somebody else. And I tell people all the time, I said, everybody needs this. So that when I'm thinking of a wonderful teacher that I had as an elementary school principal, and she retired. And she had it all right here in her head. But when she retired, she took her head with her.
Yep. Yep.
So what we've got to do is have these kind of standard operating principles that is just infectious throughout the school so that everybody's doing that, first of all, to help themselves when it comes time to do that project next year. And then when they move on to somewhere else, that they have left tracks that someone else can follow.
Well, I think that's such a good thing about putting as much as you can in writing as possible because you talk about somebody following you or when somebody retires. But I think another piece that is often missed by administrators are those mid-year ads of people who are jumping into things when it's October or January. And they're like, I don't have the 4 months of experience in the same school that y'all have already had. But when you have all that stuff in writing and organized, it makes it much easier for anybody to jump in wherever you are and continue. So my question though is, we're going to have people listening to this who are like, Frank, I know I need to have these lists. I know I need to do this, but it just feels too big. Like I don't even know where to begin because everything feels like the most important thing on my plate.
Yeah.
So what's your advice for somebody when they're like, I want to get better at this, but I just need to get started and I don't know where, Frank?
Okay. The most basic thing is write it down. Nothing's here. As soon as you think of something that needs to be done, whether it's a one time and check it off or whether I'm going to be doing this every year at this time, it goes in your system. Now that system could be a paper planner, if that's your jam. It could be a digital task list. Personally, I like to have a digital task list because you do it, you check it off. If it's something you do every year, you put it on there one time, it goes away, it comes back when you need to do it again. It is wonderful. But nothing stays in your head. That you put it on the list and you word it clearly so that when you look at the list, that those tasks either attract you or they repel you. I want it worded clearly, so I can't wait to do that sucker and check it off. So that's where we start. And then we get really good. We kind of have that little radar up that when we put something on the list that we're going, oh, this is a repeater. I'm not only doing it this time and going, oh, glad I got that done. Don't have to worry about that for a year. No, go ahead and worry about it now. Go ahead and put whatever instructions need to happen so that a year from now, when it comes back around, you are thanking yourself. And another thing, people talk about delegation all the time, and we're told it as principal. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Well, you can't delegate what you don't know you've got.
Yeah.
So when you've got the list in front of you, you begin to go, oh man, now I know why I can't get it all done. It's simply too much. And if I word it clearly enough for me to do it, and for me to know what I meant a year from now and what other materials need to be gathered, if I've got it clear enough for me to do it, you know what? I've got it clear enough that I can hand it off.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
nobody can do it as well as I can do it. Well, nobody else can do it as well as you can do it because they didn't have complete instructions. You start giving people the instructions, and then it's amazing what a teacher can do, what a parent can do, what a child
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah. I mean, you've got so much good there that I hope people heard. And the first is that just writing it down. And once you get into that habit of writing it down, it really becomes naturally. Like that's one of those things that it's just a natural thing of, oh, we're now in November. Yep, I've written it down. Yep, I've already got it down there. I've got that. Like it doesn't become something of, oh, I forgot to write it down. When you're really consistent at it, it becomes a habit. But I love that you use the words of when you write it down so that the future you is attracted by it, not repelled by it. And
Yes.
that's some powerful shift of thinking there that I think we sometimes forget is the way you word it matters. I mean, we all are using organizational tools that are digital, and we all know we've put that file in our Google Drive and we can't find it because we don't even know what the heck we titled it when we put it in there. And so
Yeah.
that when you said that, I was like, oh man, I'm even thinking right now of documents I need to go retitle that would attract me more to use them instead of repel me
Yeah. Yeah.
because I just said something else. So I
Yeah.
love those.
And Todd, like you mentioned Google Drive, and see for me, if there's a document, here's this task I'm going to be doing a year from now, and there's that document in Google Drive that I'm going to need. I go as far as on the task list, put the link to that document. So I'm putting
Yes.
the date, when it repeats, so that a year from now, there's the task sitting in front of me, and I go, how the heck do I do that? Click. One click. So I don't even have to figure out where did I put that document. One click, and boom,
Yeah.
it's there. It's
So
easy enough. I'll actually do it.
exactly. But I'm thinking here, many of us have administrative teams. And so as you talk about this organization, I'd love to hear your thoughts on are you more of the belief of like we could do one thing which it's sectioned off into each person of our administrative team, or do you feel like, you know what, I think everybody should keep their own and then we just all know how to access it when needed?
I think everybody needs to have their own. Yep. There's an old saying, that which is everybody's responsibility is nobody's
Right.
responsibility. So, if you are a principal and you have the luxury of 2 or 3 assistant principals, that everybody's got those things that they alone are responsible for. And then the pieces kind of come together. It may be, we're going through accreditation. Well, we all need to share in that load. But here's what I'm doing. Here's what you're doing. Here's what you're doing. And it works together. Like the lunchroom. Like the lunchroom. She's working on dessert. She's chopping up the vegetables. But at 11 o'clock, it's all coming together.
Yeah. I love that. So, I asked you about if I'm an administrator who I don't even know where to begin, but I'd love to also know, let's say I'm an administrator who, I feel pretty good about my time management. I feel pretty good about my organization, the notes I'm keeping. What I'm struggling with is my team is not good. Like, how do I help them get better where it's not just a carbon copy of the way I do things? Because we know personalities are different.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of it is modeling, and you'd be surprised at, I think if you tell somebody, hey, you need to do this, you need to follow this method, you get a little pushback. But when other people see how easy things are working for you, it's kind of like, how do you do that? Thinking back to my first year as an elementary principal. Now this was 1997. So so it's me and my daytimer. Well, I wasn't digital yet. So I had that little book, and that little book went everywhere. And the teachers were just kind of like, what is it with the little book? What's he put in there? But what they seemed to notice was when they started talking to me about something of importance to them, that book opened. And whatever got written down in that book got Done. So one of the best professional development activities we had was we just took one of those and took a half a day, and it was just me and them. And I said, okay, y'all, we're going to talk about the book and the other things, the tickler file, just the basics of the system of here's what I do and here's how I do it. And they're like, this is so simple. Why
Yeah.
hasn't anyone told us about this
Yeah.
before? And it is simple, and I think it's got to be simple. What one of my favorite quotes, Tim Ferriss, who most people who know him because of the 4 hour work week, not the 4 day work week, but the 4 hour work week, and he wrote another book called Tribe of Mentors. There's this one line in it where he says, um, "Oh, let me remember the line." Basically, what could we do? You know, what would this look like if it were easy? What would this look like if it were easy? And so many times I come back to that when it's like, gosh, this is just tedious.
Yeah.
And there's a much easier way to do it.
Yeah. I love that. And so, I think these are all such good, easy to do things and things that we can
Mm-hmm.
forget about. But as we begin to wrap this conversation up, I want to end with one more word of wisdom for you on this. And that is, I got my list. I'm doing it. I'm making the
Mm-hmm.
notes. I'm writing things that are attracting me to want to do it next year, not repel me. But sometimes when I see that list, I'm like so overwhelmed with the amount of things to do and the importance of them. How do you not get overwhelmed by your lists?
Good question. One, I try to batch things, to do similar things. It's a whole lot easier to get in the phone call and make your phone calls back to back to
Yeah.
back. And one, you
Yeah.
kind of get off the phone call to the next one, so forth and so on. If it's things out in the building, you walk out of the office, you hit this one, this one, this one. You can talk to 15 different teachers, after school. And the thing that allows me to do that is to work ahead of deadlines. I'm looking at, yeah, I always felt like if when I got to school that morning, there were 3 things I absolutely positively had to do, I was in trouble because you know what can happen. That I want to come to school going, if I didn't do anything, today would be okay. Now, 3 days from now might be a different story. So that I'm working ahead of deadlines so that I can batch things and have a little bit of think time. This life does not have to be as hard as we sometimes make it.
I love it. This has been so enlightening. I have so many more questions I want to ask. But, as we wrap this conversation up, I always love to end these podcasts with the same question. And that is, obviously, there's things people are going to walk away with and learn from this. But if there's only one thing you hope they hear, what is your one thing for our listeners or viewers today?
Write it down.
Love it. Easy to remember. Get in there and do it. And practice makes perfect. I love it. Well, Dr. Buck, if people want to get connected with you or learn more about you or get more ideas from you or your books or anything like that, where can I send them?
frankbuck.org. There's the keys to the kingdom. Blog posts that go all the way back to 2005, information on the books, information how you can bring me to. And I tell people, if I haven't been to your school, it's for one reason. Nobody's asked me yet. So maybe I'd love to come back to Texas again and again and again. So
There we go.
frankbuck.org.
So go check out frankbuck.org and learn more about all the work that Frank is doing, as well as his many resources and in potential bringing them to you as well. Thank you, Frank, so much for being a guest today on our podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching another episode of the TEPSA Talk podcast. Remember to leave us a review or a like, as all as that helps lead more people to our episodes. And don't forget to check out the TEPSA Summer Conference coming this June to the Round Rock, Kalahari. Registration is open now. You are not going to want to miss it. We'll see you next week.